This past week, we got Matt McLain. When might we see the other Reds prospects? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. Today is Saturday, May 20th. I am Frank Sanford, joined by Scott White. The 5 prospects on the verge of getting the call: Christian Encarnacion-Strand with the Reds, Jordan Walker with the Cardinals, Colton Cowser and Jordan Westberg, both of the Orioles, and Elly De La Cruz with the Reds. Scott, we know Matt McLain made his debut this week. When might we see the rest of these guys, Encarnacion-Strand and Elly De La Cruz?
Well, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen Encarnacion-Strand already. I thought he would beat Matt McLain to the majors. The Reds have been forced to play Spencer Steer at first base, and that's probably not the best thing. You know, he's a rookie himself. Probably not the best thing for his development, considering he can play third base, he can play second base. Probably don't want him confined there. And there's certainly a way they could rearrange their lineup, sending Nick Senzel to the outfield, sending Steer back to third base to get Encarnacion-Strand in there. He continues to hit for plenty of power at AAA. The one issue I see is that the plate discipline's been pretty awful. His walks are about 0, not exactly 0, but about 0. And maybe they're hoping to see some improvement along those lines. But, you know, at AA last year, his plate discipline wasn't that much better. I just don't think that's a big part of Encarnacion-Strand's game. So I still think it'll be soon. I have Elly De La Cruz here in the 5 on the verge now, because I think it's probably between him and Jordan Walker, who's the best prospect in baseball at this point. He's young enough, age 21, and raw enough that there's a chance he doesn't get called up at all this year. But I treat the 5 on the verge as these are the prospects most worth stashing in fantasy. And that doesn't, like, proximity isn't the only factor there. It's also how impactful will he be when he gets called up. And I think we're at the point now where Elly De La Cruz is one of the top prospects to stash, because who knows, maybe he will get called up in the next couple weeks, and you certainly want to have him already stashed away if he does, because the upside is enormous. There is not a player in baseball, minors or even majors. He has the hardest hit ball in baseball this year, Elly De La Cruz. So there's not anybody who can do what he can do in terms of quality of contact.
Just look at what De La Cruz has done in the month of May. 15 games, batting .339 with 5 homers, 5 doubles, 5 steals, and an 1144 OPS.
And I said he's raw. I mean, the biggest area where that shows is the poor plate discipline, a lot of strikeouts. But that's changed over the last week. He's kind of flipped the script, has Elly De La Cruz. A lot more walks, a lot fewer strikeouts. It's a small sample, but it's exactly the kind of improvement that they're probably looking for from him. So that's another reason why not a bad idea to stash him away if you can afford to.
All right, let's take a look at the 5 prospects on the periphery. These are prospects making some noise recently, doing something of note. Ronny Mauricio, a shortstop with the Mets. Justin Henry Malloy, a third baseman with the Tigers. Jackson Holliday, the top pick, he was a top 2 pick in that draft for the Orioles. AJ Smith Schawver, a starting pitcher with the Braves. And Cesar Prieto, a shortstop with the A's. Scott, what do you have on this group?
Well, Jackson Holliday was the number 1 pick in last year's draft.
Yeah.
So. He's hit .390 at each of his 2 stops in the lower minors, low A and high A. And he might start to challenge Jordan Walker and Elly De La Cruz for the number 1 prospect in baseball honors soon enough, because he's been everything he was advertised to be, and then some. Ronny Mauricio, this is an interesting one, of the Mets. Shortstop, has also played some second base. Is that AAA? So, like, you could say he's on the verge too if they have an injury up the middle. He's hit about .360 at AAA this year. Has Ronny Mauricio. He always had a good power profile, long limbs, good exit velocities, and he's delivering on that again. But Baseball America gave him only a 40 grade hit tool coming into this season. Another guy with very poor plate discipline. And now he's batting .360. And his strikeout rate has vastly improved this year. So it seems like Ronny Mauricio has turned his biggest weakness there into a strength. And if that's the case, he's suddenly a much more attractive dynasty asset. Justin Henry Malloy, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. Great on-base skills. and showing more power this year in the Tigers organization than he did in the Braves organization last year. Speaking of the Braves, AJ Smith Schawver with a V. AJ Smith Schawver, this is one of the biggest risers in the prospect ranks right now. And in the Braves system, he started the year in high A, made 3 starts there, moved up to double A, made 2 starts. Now he's headed to triple A. They're clearly fast tracking this guy with all the injuries they've had to their rotation. Very good fastball. When he was drafted a couple years ago, was very new to pitching, took it up late in high school, pretty much just had a fastball and didn't know where it was going. But he's made big strides with the command this year. The breaking ball, the slider especially, looks like a good pitch. Braves have had a lot of success with these kind of out-of-nowhere prospects the last few years. AJ Smith Schawver might be the latest one.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again next week. Bye-bye.